So when a man says, let's go with the flow, when we don't need any titles, anything that's very non-committal or doesn't present a vision for where we're trying to go with this is a man you should not entertain. Now listen, I want to make something very clear. I am not here to bash men. I am not here to paint a negative picture of men in a general sense. However, I will point out that there are bad men that exist. There are men you don't need to be giving your time and energy to. And so we have to talk about those things so that I can help you avoid those types of individuals and the damage that comes from that situation. But that does not mean all men fit under these categories, all right? So please do not make that mistake. I'm a firm believer that, not even believer, I know that great, amazing men exist. Great relationships can be had, but we have to learn how to stay away from the wrong people. So with that said, let's get into the 7. I'm sure we got a lot more than 7 we can name, but I picked a certain 7 I want to talk about today, so let's get right to it. Type of man number 1, Mr. Broke and Lazy. Now, notice I didn't just say Mr. Broke. I said Mr. Broke and Lazy. Here's the thing. I am a firm believer in women not having to build a man, all right? That doesn't mean you can't support an individual, that you can't be encouraging of him. And I understand that everyone's not where they need to be right now. Everyone's not rich or even going to be rich. That's fine. But there needs to be a foundation of financial stability, all right? But when we're talking about Mr. Broke and Lazy, he's not just the guy who doesn't have money right now. He's not the guy who's just struggling. He's the guy who's not doing a damn thing about it. All right. This is the problem. A man who is broke and lazy is not a man you can work with. You can't be trying to look at his potential and think, well, if he just applied himself, he could do so much. And you may be right. Maybe he could accomplish so much with the right motivation. But if you want to provide that motivation and encouragement, do it as his friend. Like, the mistake that women make so much is getting romantically involved with a man who is not qualified to be in a relationship with you yet. That's not to insult the man. It's just the reality of the situation. He has not built himself up to a point where he can have a stable, healthy relationship with you. Now, some of you may say, well, I know some women and they married their man when he was broke and they're happy now. Listen, there's exceptions to every rule. Some people get lucky, but those are minority situations. That is not the majority. The majority of women who entertain Mr. Broken Lazy become Mrs. Hurt and Damaged. All right? Become Mrs. I'm drained and I can't take it no more. Because Mrs. Super Pessimistic, not believing good men exist because the last one took so much out of her. You don't want to get caught up in that cycle. Mr. Broken Lazy needs to get his act together. Again, if you want to encourage him as a friend, fine. Do not have sex with him. Do not act like his girlfriend. Do not give him the benefits of being in a relationship with you when he is not qualified yet. If you simply said to him, hey, this is what you need to do to be with me, all right, and he's serious about being with you, he'll step up to the plate. That's the reality of it. You know what? I got to give this one quick story to give you an example of how you just have to tell him this is what you're looking for. So I have a friend. She knew a guy. Long story short, when she met the man, he had no driver's license, no job, or a super low paying job, baby mama drama, a whole bunch of nonsense and issues. Okay. And she said to him, listen, I need you to get your license. I need you to get a better job. I need you to get these kids and this baby mama situation in order. Until then, we can't even entertain the possibility of being together. All right. So she tells him that and she lets him go. He comes back. This is a true story. Comes back 8 months later. Man got his license. Man got a good paying job. No more drama. I think he was also living at his mama's house, not living with his mother anymore. Got himself together. Now, unfortunately, she still ain't want him. But that ain't the point of the story, okay? Ignore that part. That's a whole different issue as to why she didn't take him. And for any man, don't let that discourage you. The reality, the point that I'm trying to make here, though, is he stepped up to the plate. He was told what needed to be done, and because he wanted the opportunity bad enough, he made it happen. That's what you should be doing when you come across Mr. Broken Lazy, who you feel like, okay, there could be something here, but he's not ready yet. But in the meantime, avoid him. Type of man to avoid, number 2, Mr. Go with the Flow. Now, before I get deeper into this, let me just mention real quick, you need to get a copy of my book, He's Lying Sis. I'm going to show you real quick. This is it. It is available on Amazon. It is also available in the description. There is a link, and in the comment section, I will place the link. It uncovers the truth behind his words and actions. It goes deeper into a lot of the stuff we're talking about on this video, and I talk about on my channel. Check it out. He's Lying Sis. People are going crazy over it. I'm not just saying that. That's for real. You can see the reviews on Amazon if you want. So anyways, let's get deeper into this. Mr. Go with the Flow. He's dangerous. All right. You have to be aware that a man who does not know what he wants should not be entertained. Plain and simple. Now, I know some of you may say, well, I've said let's go with the flow. I get that. But ask yourself, when you told yourself or when you told that person, let's just go with the flow, how did you really feel about that individual? Where was your head really at? Were you even truly ready for a real relationship? The reality is that when we're saying let's just go with the flow, we're trying to find this middle ground of keeping this person in our life as an option or a convenience without having to fully commit to anything or any expectations in the situation, all right? And if you know you desire a real relationship, then dealing with this guy becomes dangerous because that flow could turn into 5 months, 9 months, 2 years, 10 years. Yes, I've seen situations. I have coached people who got involved with that kind of man, and next thing you know, it's years later, you're still there. Maybe you got kids by the man now, and he's still not committing to you. He is still not prepared to put any labels on it. So when a man says, let's go with the flow, when we don't need any titles, anything that's very non-committal or doesn't present a vision for where we're trying to go with this is a man you should not entertain. Again, even if you want to convince yourself that, you know what, maybe he just needs a little time, which I'm not saying I agree with. But if you are, as an adult, want to go that route, at the very least, do not get romantically involved until he can give you his intent. Plain and simple, all right? And when I say romantically involved, I want to stress, no sex, no intimacy. You want to talk as friends, cool, but even that is dangerous because if you really like him, you're going to get caught up. You're going to grow attached, and while he's not willing to commit to you or give you a vision for where he's trying to go with you, you are going to find yourself dragged along in a situation and possibly blocking your ability to receive a man who does want to be with you. So when he just wants to go with the flow, let him go. Let him flow by himself. You don't need to entertain that. It is too much of a problem. All right, so now type of man to avoid, number 3, Mr. Mama's Boy. All right, now let me make something very clear. There's the mama's boy who simply loves and honors his mother. Nothing wrong with that guy, all right? I think men should love and honor their mother. I would hope and pray that men out there have a good, strong relationship with their mothers. That's a beautiful thing. However, the mama's boy that I'm talking about is the man who basically has to have his mother take care of him. The man who has to run everything past his mother. The man who has no boundaries with his mother. So now when he's in a relationship, the mother gets to dictate what happens. The mother has too much power in his life. She essentially runs him, or at a drop of a dime, she can run him. All right? That is a problem. A man has to learn how to stand on his own 2 feet. He can honor his mother and respect her, but she has to understand there is a boundary. She is not the dictator of this relationship. She does not get to, how do I say this, interfere in our relationship in a negative manner. Granted, if she's going to be positive, encouraging, a shoulder to lean on in a good, nurturing, healthy way, no problem with that. But let's be real. There's a lot of mothers out there causing havoc. There's a lot of mothers out there who are ruining relationships. There's a lot of mothers out there who don't know their place. And And I say that respectfully. She doesn't understand. You cannot be trying to run your son's relationship, or you can't be taking issue with every woman your son gets with because you don't want to lose your son to any woman. Now, that's a whole different issue. You know, I'll make a video for that. But the point is, mama's boy, that's not good, because if you're looking for a serious relationship in marriage, it is extremely difficult to deal with a man who does not know how to detach from his mother in that way. It also shows that it is very likely that this man will go from having a mother raise him and take care of him and coddle him to expecting his partner or wife to be his new mother who has sex with him. All right, let me say that again. He is looking for a woman to be his new mother who has sex with him. That is not a good dynamic. That's not a healthy dynamic in a relationship. So pay attention to the type of mama's boy he is. And if he is what I described, he is definitely a man to avoid. Number 4, Mr. Fake Christian. Man. So listen, let me say this. I'm not one to want to judge people's walk spiritually. All right. And I don't even like calling people fake Christian, fake Muslim, fake whatever, all right? Fake believer. However, the reality is that I've seen tons of situations where there are men out there who use God and spirituality as a way to gain favor with women, as a way to gain favor in business, but they're not really about that life, all right? And so that's the problem here. And some of the signs to look for, to pay attention to, is how is his behavior outside of the audience? Meaning, again, when he's in a crowd of people, crowd of women, he might be quoting scripture, he might be praising God, he might be doing all these things. But these fake ones tend to be very judgmental outside of that. Very mean-spirited in a lot of ways. Can become very verbally abusive, very controlling. They have very negative tendencies that show when they're not in front of the audience. Whatever audience they're trying to appeal to right now, once that's removed, their true self starts to show. But the problem is, a lot of women, they get drawn to what they saw because they were a part of that audience, all right? And they believe, oh my gosh, he's a man of God, he's this and all this stuff. And then when he does show you, because he will show you, when he does show you his other side, that is clearly contrary to being a man of God, you're still trying to hold on to what he presented to you at first. You're still trying to hold on to the fact that maybe his title is pastor. Maybe his title is whatever. I don't know. The point is, you're getting caught up in the surface and his resume rather than holding on or acknowledging the behavior and the spirit he shows you outside of being in front of that audience. And so that guy, that specific guy, because again, there are plenty of good, genuine men of God, but the fake ones, you gotta stay away from. I've seen a lot of toxic situations. And again, it can become very toxic because, it can become very toxic because he's so good at putting on a performance in front of an audience that now when you try to tell people he's this and that, they think you're the crazy one. All right. And so granted, that can happen because it's going to take some time to even discover that he's the fake Christian, fake believer, whatever. However, once you see it, you got to address it. And if it's not corrected, you got to go. Plain and simple. You can't be in denial of it because, again, he holds a certain title or because he performs it very well otherwise. You got to stay true to what you're seeing outside of that and what your intuition and spirit is telling you. So beware of the fake believer, fake Christian, fake whatever. All right. Fake spiritual person. All right. So now on to the 5th type of man to avoid. Mr. Married but separated. Man. Listen. And this topic, all these topics are in the book He's Lying, Sis, but this one I also touch on specifically. And let me tell you, I think we should already know, don't mess with married men. But let's be real, it's still happening. It's still happening. And I'm not here to judge anyone. So I'm not speaking down on anyone if you are in it or have been considering it. I just want to encourage you to not entertain it. I want to encourage you to get out of that situation. But the reason why you have to avoid Mr. Married but Separated, let me make something very clear. Not every man who is married but separated is lying, all right? Not every man is trying to move forward with malicious intent. Some people are just so caught up in their own feelings and they want to be loved. They want to have somebody there. And yes, they will rationalize to themselves that this is okay because they are separated from their marriage. Though I would encourage those individuals as well to please don't entertain relationships until you're officially divorced. All right. You need time to heal. You need to clean up your situation. You don't want to bring someone new when you haven't taken care of the person before. I'm not here to say that you should have got divorced or it's good that you got divorced or anything like that. I'm simply saying if you're going through it, finalize it. Get it done, then entertain relationships. But for the women, it's important for you to avoid that man. Again, not because I'm saying he's a downright evil man, even though some of them are, and some of them are lying. They're not even truly separated. They're not even close to a divorce. But if he's telling you I'm married but separated, he is telling you I'm still married. That's what you need to hear when he says that. You are still married. And if he is still married, then the bottom line is at any point, things can change. So I've seen situations where women get caught up with this type of man and he's telling them, I'm leaving my wife, I plan on being with you, all these things. And she's getting ready thinking, okay, that's what's going to happen. And then let's say months later, he comes back to her, you know what? I've decided to work things out with my wife. I don't want to leave my kids. Whatever reason, something happens and now you're heartbroken, you're shattered, and you don't know how to get yourself out of it. Or you're still trying to be his side chick now because you've grown so attached to him, even though now he's saying to you, I'm no longer leaving my wife. Either way, this is a very unhealthy situation. You've got to be very careful of allowing yourself to entertain that man. Let him get his divorce. When he's divorced, all right, so be it. Y'all are grown adults. You can do what you want. But until then, he needs to be avoided. You need to protect yourself, your peace, your spirit, and don't get caught up in any drama or mess. And we can go even deeper, but we're going to stop there with that one. So, number 6, Mr. Emotionally Unavailable or / Mr. Doesn't Know How to Communicate. Now, let me say this. Doesn't know how to communicate. I had to throw that in because, again, if you guys can't talk to each other, you can't have a healthy relationship. However, I do want to make clear that not knowing how to communicate, but willing to try to work with you is a guy that you can embrace and entertain. All right. Not every man is going to be great with his communication at first. Some men do need growth in that areas. But again, there are men who are willing or want to try or are concerned about how you feel about it. And they're the men who make excuses. And so when we're talking about the excuses, we're sliding a little bit more into Mr. Emotionally Unavailable. This is not a man who is capable of giving you what you need in a relationship. All right. And the reality is that the man who starts off dating you emotionally unavailable is extremely unlikely to become emotionally available to you. If your thought process is he just needs some time and he'll get there, wrong. Now, again, I'm not going to say it's never happened in the history of life, but I'm telling you it is a rare occurrence. You cannot be betting on that. Even if you thought that can happen, what did I say earlier? Be his friend. That's the most you can give him. Platonic friendship, if you can handle it, all right? And if you can make sure that you're not going to cross certain lines and he understands that as well. Outside of that, though, he's simply not trying to be what you need in a relationship. And it could be for various reasons. It could be he's just too damaged. It could be he's just not into you like that. There could be a host of other things going on with him. Either way, he is not capable of having a healthy relationship with you. And you don't need to get caught up with this man, because what happens to a lot of women is, in the struggle to pull the emotion out of him, you become more attached to the individual. You now have a harder time walking away from him, even though he's always been the same emotionally unavailable man from the start. He never lied about that. He never showed you something different, all right? So you got to accept it for what it is and realize this is not a man I can even attempt to have a relationship with. Stay away from him so that you don't become more damaged in the process. And now, last but not least, number 7. And again, I want to mention it one more time. All right. Sorry about that. He's lying, sis. Get it. So the next one I'm about to mention is a specific chapter in here as well. And that is, he doesn't want a girlfriend, but he acts like your boyfriend. Let me say that one more time. He doesn't want a girlfriend, but he acts like a boyfriend. Let me tell you something. You got to stay far away from this dude, because it becomes such a difficult situation when you have a man who's willing to do all the nice things, talk to you nice, treat you good, but he doesn't want to commit to you. He doesn't even want a relationship in general. At least that's what he's telling you, because I would argue that a lot of times the same man who tells you I don't want a relationship simply does not want it with you, which is why you will see him 6 months later get engaged to somebody else. He was always down for commitment. He just didn't want it with you. And that's not a knock on you per se. There's going to be a lot of men who may like you, who may value what you bring to the table, but they don't feel you're the one. They don't feel like, okay, this is who I want to attach myself to for the rest of my life. And there are some men who simply want to have you as a convenience in their life. And they will do boyfriend, girlfriend stuff with you, but they will not fully claim you. They will not fully commit to you. They will not allow you to think, or they will not tell you that I have future plans for you. All right. And sometimes they might even say it. But again, if I'm saying I will have future plans for you, but I still can't commit to you now, I'm full of crap. That's bottom line. Don't listen to that. So the guy who acts like your boyfriend but doesn't want a girlfriend is not a man you should entertain. It's a man you need to avoid, because it is such a dangerous situation where you are very likely to get caught up. You are very likely to want to believe that his current actions are saying he wants more with you. And I know we always say actions speak louder than words, but the reality is that actions and words have to line up together. When the actions and words are different, that means a lie is being told. There cannot be inconsistency there. A man who is serious about you, a man who wants to be with you, is going to show actions and be able to verbalize his desire for you. All right. But that kind of guy that I'm talking about, he's showing you one and not the other. And that's a guy you need to stay away from. So again, like I said, there's a lot more men we could probably add to this list. If you have some that I didn't mention, put them in the comment section below. But one way or another, avoid these types of men. Now, I want to stress, I'm a firm believer in you don't see a red flag and run. You see a red flag and you address it. Sometimes, and I'm just going to use one example. Let's say the fake believer, all right? Let's say he has a moment where he does act out of character. And it may just be a moment. If you address him and he handles that well and corrects his behavior, then he's good. Don't assume, well, I just saw this red flag, let me run, because that must mean he's fake. Nah, maybe he just made a mistake. We are human. So I have no problem with any one of these men that you may encounter, that you first address it, all right? Because again, the man who is serious about you will correct it. The man who is not will make excuses. He'll dismiss you. He'll dance around this topic. He'll flip the tables on you. But either way, he's not going to make improvements. That guy, cut him loose. It's done. So listen, I know that this may sound crazy, but the reality is this. There's a lot of great men out there. Now I know, don't roll your eyes, don't make faces at the camera or the TV or however you're watching this, right? There really are a lot of amazing, wonderful men who want relationships, who are prepared to pour into a woman. They exist. However, I'm not going to ignore the fact that there are tons of other men who are just not going to be good for you, who are toxic, who are immature, who don't understand how to have healthy relationships. Now, I think the big problem that's happening to so many women is that due to the many experiences with the bad men, it blinds you to the reality of the good men existing. But also due to not properly recognizing, acknowledging, or understanding why this man is a bad man. And let me just clarify, when I say bad, let's replace that with why this man is not best for you, all right? Not understanding that is what's setting you up to find yourselves in situations that you don't belong in, that drain you, that damage you, and that again, create this negative perception of men. So my goal here is to help you understand and recognize those men as quickly as possible so that you will know not to deal with them, that you will understand you should avoid dating these guys, because I want you to be readily available for that great, amazing man. Now, of course, part of being readily available for him is also you being healed from past situations and you giving off the energy necessary, the right spirit that will help you receive that kind of man. But one step at a time. Let's get to understanding some of the types of men you need to avoid dating. Now, I have a different video that has a lot of other guys I've mentioned before, but this is kind of a new list. They're all, you can put these two lists together, but let's just focus on this video's list. So the first guy I had to mention in this video that you need to avoid dating is a man who does not take care of his kids. So let me make clear, I don't think there's anything wrong with dating a man with children. The same way if I speak to men, I don't discourage them from dating women with children. I think the concerns people have in regards to getting into a situation like that are valid, and those concerns should be addressed and explored, but don't project negative assumptions on people because they have children. Now, again, you're free to not want to deal with it whatsoever. But let's just say you meet a guy, you like this guy for whatever reason, and you start to see that he is a man that is not taking care of his children. You need to leave him alone. Now, let me give you first my personal reason why I'm going to tell you to leave him alone. Because if he's not going to take care of his kids, he don't deserve a damn woman. And maybe I'm biased, and not biased because it's happened to me in any kind of way. I just think that men who do not take care of their children, I don't respect that. I look down on that. I don't want to look down on people in general, but to me, like this world would be a better place if more people stepped up and took care of their kids. And if you didn't want kids, you need to be more careful of how you navigate through this world sexually. And whether you want to or not, once they're here, you got to do your part, okay? But let's go further than that. If he is not taking care of his kids, it speaks to the character of that man. And of course, not in a good way, all right? Because what kind of man brings children into this world and abandons them? Now, I understand that there are a lot of hurt, damaged men, okay? And I understand that because of what they've been through, they now take that hurt and pain out on others. This isn't, of course, to validate it or make it excusable, but I do want to acknowledge the pain and the struggle of some men who have themselves been abandoned, who have themselves not been nurtured in a way to have healthy relationships with individuals as well as themselves. But I will not let that be an excuse. And I don't think women should be rewarding that behavior, because when you get with a man who does not take care of his kids, you are saying to him and to the others who watch this situation that you're okay with that kind of behavior. And if you are okay with that kind of behavior, please understand, it usually doesn't stop there. How many times have we seen situations of men who aren't taking care of their kids, get a new woman pregnant, and do the same damn thing? Because again, it's about a character issue, all right? Now, I don't want to overlook the fact that, yes, are there real situations out there where men are trying or have tried very hard to be in their children's lives, and the baby's mother, the mother of the child, has fought tooth and nail to keep them away, has created problems, has made it extremely difficult. Yes, this happens. And so I don't look at those men the same as I look at the man who just abandons his kids. All right. And so I think for you as a woman, you have to look deeper and understand, because the man who abandoned his kids could sell you the story of, oh, it's the child's mother. That's the problem. It's not me, it's them. But pay attention. Does he really make an effort? Does he show concern for his children? All right. And what does his character show you in other ways that either support the idea that he's a man of integrity, a man who embraces his responsibility, but is being blocked out, versus other issues that are only showing you he's really not that guy. He's really the irresponsible, doesn't care, narcissistic man who left and walked away from his children. All right. Now, another thing I want you to be mindful of is one of the reasons why we see a lot of men basically become deadbeat dads. A lot, not all, okay? Please, this is not all. But a lot of them abandon their kids because the only reason why they had kids with that woman was to keep the woman in their life. They were using the kids as a gateway to that woman, as an attachment, all right? And so when they are no longer able to have the woman and have access to her in the way that they want to, they're like, F the kids, all right? Because it's almost like they never cared about the children. They only cared about having control over that woman. Now, again, I'm just explaining to you why this happens, and it's something to be mindful of, because again, some men are going to come in your life who fit under this description, and they have not healed whatever part of them caused them to walk that path. And so chances are they're going to repeat the behavior. And yes, these men could have kids, don't even take care of them, and they're quick to impregnate you or want to impregnate you. Okay? Because again, to them, this child is a way to keep you in their life. So, and that's why, you know, I understand everyone may not hold tight to the idea of marriage. I understand that some people feel like you don't have to be married, but this is why I think it's always best that if someone is truly serious about having a baby with you, they should be able to commit to you in marriage. That's my personal belief, but that's a whole different discussion. We'll leave that for a different video, all right? But to wrap this point up, I'm seeing too many women get with men who are irresponsible in this area of their life and who are downright not doing their part. And we have to, and I say we, but society, women, has to stop essentially rewarding these types of men. So I encourage you, if you're watching this video, and again, if you're already dating this kind of man, or a man who you suspect, maybe you don't know for sure, but there's a potential that he is that kind of guy, I'm all for having a talk first. I'm all for maybe encouraging and seeing, okay, what's the issue here? But then once he shows you that he is just unwilling for whatever the reasons are, other than the mother's child is truly blocking him. And even then, and I think that's a whole video I got to make as well, because there's a lot of, sometimes the men aren't trying enough. Sometimes, all right? And they're just using the excuse of the mother making it hard when it's not really that's not really the case. But the bottom line is, if he's not showing a willingness to work on being a part of his kid's life, providing for them, that's the man you need to leave alone. All right, so let's keep this moving. The next type of man to avoid dating is Mr. Comfortable with asking you for money. All right, so if you watch my videos, you know I'm always bringing up something about money and relationships, because I do feel like it's an important discussion we have to have. It's what's happening in so many people's lives. And there's a lot to discuss here. So please understand there's a lot more we can add to this conversation. But let's highlight a few things here. All right. So once again, I will say, me personally, I am very skeptical of a man who is comfortable with asking a woman for money in the dating phase. All right. Not that I think it's completely okay in the relationship, but I do think, all right, if you guys have reached that level of commitment, you know who he is, you're comfortable with this man, he's comfortable with you, and if it's situations where he really is in a dire situation and he can't turn anywhere else, all right, I think, there's exceptions to every rule, right? But when a man's still trying to get to know you, you guys haven't even gotten to that level of commitment, and he is okay with asking you for money, no, that to me is a problem. And here is the reason why. Because some of you may say, well, what's the big deal? We tell men to provide for women. Yes, we do. I do. And I will continue to do so. And you know what? If you want to call it a double standard, so be it. All right. I wholeheartedly believe in double standards because men and women are not the same. And the way that we go about things speaks differently to what's going on in that person's head and what this could mean if they're willing to take such action. Okay. So when a man is comfortable with asking you for money early in the dating phase, my first thought is he's not that serious about you. Reason being is because when men really, really like a woman and they see something, some serious potential here, there is a natural inclination to want to impress the woman, all right? And to want to come off at least as a provider. Even broke men will overextend themselves, all right? Trying to show this woman that he got it or he can take care of it when he really likes the woman. Hell, sometimes even when they don't like you that much, but they just want to impress you for other reasons, they won't show that they are struggling financially, okay? So, and it's one thing to allow you to see that they're struggling. It's another thing to say, well, now let me place this burden on you by asking you for money. Not to mention, here's the other thing that bothers me, or it raises the red flag. If he is so comfortable asking someone he just recently met and getting to know for money, there's a very good chance this man is bad with money and he ain't got no one else to ask. Because he's already exhausted either all his other options and no one's willing to come to help him because they already know how he gets down. All right? Because think about it. If he's in a difficult situation, he can't go to none of his friends, no family, nothing. The person he goes to is you. The one that he just recently met you. How is he so cool with that? Probably because, again, he knows he can't go to nobody else. He's already went to them many times. They've either already gave him money and he didn't hold to his word, or they just see that he's always messing up. It's usually not a good sign. Again, there's exceptions to every rule. I'm not saying there's never been a man who's responsible, who maybe he literally had no one else to ask, maybe because he doesn't have family and friends like that, to no fault of his own, there are exceptions, but those are very minority situations. In most cases, there are other people that exist in this man's life. And that's something for you to ask yourself. Is this man I'm dating who has the balls to ask me for some money? Does he have other people in his life? If he does, why is he coming to me, not them? All right. And then the other concern that comes up, and I kind of mentioned it, but I'll re-mention it, is it makes me question, how is this man with handling money? All right. And if he is poor at handling money, is this really a man you want to get into a relationship with? I'm not here to say a man has to be rich. All right. But I do advocate for a man at least being stable. Stable meaning he can handle his business. That's it. I'm not even saying he has to live a luxurious life. I'm not saying he has to be able to take you on multiple trips. If that's your thing, that's a whole different discussion. But I am saying that for most men, for men in general, they should at least be in a stable position before they're trying to enter into serious relationships. So if he is bad with money to where he is not stable enough to handle a situation like this, because the other thing that will come to mind, if he is a grown man, more specifically, is you ain't got a credit card to use. Like, you ain't got no other financial tools at your disposal to use in this moment. If you don't, what have you been doing with yourself and learning how to give yourself more flexibility financially? Again, it doesn't make him a bad person. It just brings into question how mature is he when it comes to finances, and is he mature enough to where he can have a healthy relationship? Because at the end of the day, let's face it, money is a common reason for why relationships fall apart. So we need to at least have good financial sense and financial stability before we try to move forward. All right, let's continue. The next one on this list is Mr. No Accountability. And let's highlight a specific aspect of it: blames all his exes. So here's the thing. And let me say this real quick. It's hitting my spirit. Make sure you're not Mrs. No Accountability. Make sure you're not the woman who simply blames your exes and never sees anything you've done wrong. So I want you to listen closely to what I'm saying about the man who does this, and make sure you reflect upon, do I do the same thing? And if you do, let's correct that, okay? But going back to Mr. No Accountability and blaming his exes, here's the thing. I don't care who you are. If you have been in multiple relationships that have ended, okay? I'm not even going to use the word failed, because some of y'all need to be set free from it. Hell, the ending of it was success, okay? It was a good thing. So we're not even going to use the word failure. But they have ended. And you cannot point to anything that you could learn or get better from after experiencing those previous relationships. That's a problem. All right? It speaks to an unwillingness to look at yourself in the mirror and self-reflect. And if you are unwilling to do so, and let's keep it on the man. If he's unwilling to do so, this man is unable to grow. He is unable to improve in a way that would allow him to have a healthy relationship. But even more so, it doesn't allow him, because once he gets in a relationship with you, if you guys proceed that far, this is a man who will not get better. This is a man who will always deflect, always make an excuse, always put the burden on you and absolve him of any responsibility. There is no way you're going to be happy in a relationship with a man who never accepts responsibility. Now, to give you some examples, because some of y'all may say, but no, Stephan, I really am amazing and I've done no wrong in my previous relationships. Okay, well, let's just, for the sake of argument, say you literally were the perfect partner every single time. Well, some of the things that you can learn is maybe your selection process needs improvement. All right? Maybe how long you held on to those situations. And typically if we hold on too long, that usually speaks to an unwillingness or a struggle to communicate clearly what we need or what is unacceptable, things of that nature. You see, when we really start to look at it, there's gonna be something. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with accepting, okay, here's where I could have been better. So with the man, if he can't find anything, that's a huge, huge problem. Also, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, and I'll say it again, when you bring concerns his way, because let's face it, no matter how great anyone is, even if two amazing people get together, there are going to be moments of disagreement. There are going to be moments where we're off the mark in how we pour into our partner, or not understanding certain aspects about what they need or what's going on with them, how they're feeling, so on and so forth. So again, if that individual does not show an ability, that man does not show that he can receive correction, then there will be no growth in the relationship. So you want to pay attention to that. But I have to throw in this caveat. You cannot expect people to receive correction if you are going to attack them with your words, if you're going to attack them with your energy. And I want to hone in on the energy part, because sometimes, ask yourself this: have you ever experienced a situation where someone is speaking to you, quote unquote, calmly? They're speaking to you, quote unquote, properly, no cursing, none of that, right? But you still feel the stankness coming off their body. You still feel the attitude attacking you and coming at you negative. It still feels very passive aggressive. And when you feel this energy, you are less receptive to what they have to say. It's human nature. It's how we react. So you want to be mindful of, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And you want to come in with an energy of love, with an energy of trying to correct in an uplifting way, not in a devaluing and degrading kind of way. I hope I said that word right. Yeah, degrading. I think so. Anyway, you get the point, all right? You know what I'm saying? So you just got to be mindful of that. So it's a two-way street when it comes to having these discussions and trying to improve things in relationship and wanting someone to take accountability. But he does have to show himself as a man who is open to that in the first place. All right, so before we continue, let me just give you one quick announcement. Here is your chance to get your personal questions answered for free. All right, take advantage of this opportunity. Go to www.askstephanspeaks.com and submit your question, and just follow the prompts, follow the instructions, and that's going to be your chance. I know a lot of you have lingering questions that you need advice about. So here's your chance to do it. You can click the link in the description or in the comment section. Again, askstephanspeaks.com. All right, so now the next man to avoid dating is Mr. All Talk, No Action. So let's start here, because I think we can all agree actions speak louder than words. However, let me make clear, when it comes to relationships, dating, actions and words need to both be there. When you really think about it, having one without the other will typically cause a problem or speaks to some kind of lie, inconsistency. Something's an issue when we don't have the words and the actions lining up together, right? But let's get back to this idea of all talk, no action. So before we even focus in on the actions he's giving you in the relationship, I want you to pay attention to how this man talks and moves in his general life. All right? One thing I can say is, in my years of living, I've met a lot of men who talk a great game and don't do a damn thing. All right? They got big dreams and they want to do this and that and whatever, and nothing. And my thing is this: I'm not talking about the man who has these ideas or talks his talk and then he puts a real effort, but it doesn't work out. I can excuse that because, things aren't going to always work out the way that we want to, but at least the man backs up his words and tries to make something happen. No, I'm talking about the man who's all this talk, weeks later, like, I got this huge business plan idea, months later, no business plan. Months later, no progress with the situation, okay? And so when you start to see that this is how he is in his life, please understand it's gonna pour over into the relationship. It's gonna pour over into the dating experience with you. Don't think, again, a lot of these things that we see in people speak to the character. So we can't think that, they'll be like this out in the world, but with me, it's going to be different. No, they just haven't shown you yet, possibly, but it's going to rear its ugly head. And when it does, it's going to cause tons of problems. But now let's talk about when it starts to show in the dating process with this man. Again, it's one thing for a man to not know what it is you're looking for. for a man to simply lack the understanding of what he needs to do to pour into you. But when that discussion is had and that man says, okay, I understand, I got it, and then does nothing, stop making excuses for him. Stop rationalizing past it. Stop thinking it just needs more time. No, he's just not it. He's just not that guy. Or he is not at a place where he is mature enough and ready to do his part to be the man that you need. Either way, you've got to let him go. Because here's a big problem with dating or being with a man who's all talk, no action. If he sees that you don't hold him accountable for taking no action, the talk will never stop and the action will never come. Because now he knows he can just whisper sweet nothings in your ear to tell you what you want to hear, make you feel good with what he says, but you aren't going to hold him to actually having to do anything. And so it becomes this game of, let me just calm her down in the moment. Let me just tell her what she wants to hear in the moment. And then when the smoke clears, it's the same old, same old. So you've got to ask yourself, are you enabling this behavior? This also is hitting my spirit, so let me say this. Make sure, anything I say in this video, there's a lot of things that can apply to yourself. And you want to make sure you're not being this same type of person that we're describing with these men. But specifically what I want to highlight here is, don't be Mrs. All Talk, No Action when it comes to specifically telling that man, if you do this again, I'm gone. And then when he does it again, you ain't going nowhere. All right? You don't hold true to your words and your threats. Now listen, it's not me saying you should be throwing threats. What I am saying though is, if you keep throwing out threats and claims of, well, I'm not going to accept this and so on and so forth, and then you don't back it up, you start to lose that man's respect. He starts to think, I can take advantage of you. He doesn't take you serious anymore. All right. And so now don't say it if you don't mean it. Don't say it if you ain't going to back it up. All right. I would rather you hold it back and ask yourself, if I am not willing to do what I claim I would do, why not? Why not? And why am I trying to say it if I'm not going to do it? Because a lot of times you're hoping that the threat itself will get him to tighten up. And then it doesn't. And there's a quote I like to use. I say, if your absence wouldn't motivate him to get better, then your presence never will. Meaning, if at that point, if walking away from him doesn't improve it, staying with him wasn't going to change anything. So thinking that you can just stay and it'll eventually get better, that's such a horrible approach. You know what I'm saying? Either he's willing to do his part or he's not. So anyways, to wrap this point up, pay attention to his overall life. Hold him accountable when he doesn't back up his words of actions with you, and make sure you're not doing the same things he's doing. All right. So I had a long list, and I'm going to probably make this a 2-part video because there's a lot more that I want to dive into, but let's get to the next one. All right. The next one on this list of men you should avoid dating is Mr. Verbally Abusive. Now, here's the thing with the verbally abusive and the reason why I really felt the need to put this on this list. I do think that naturally, most of us already understand we should be not dating physically and verbally abusive people, more so physically abusive people. I do understand that many women find themselves in that situation for various reasons, all right? And then it's a struggle to get out for various reasons. So as always, if you need help, if you're in that situation, check out the National Domestic Violence Hotline. I'll put the number on the screen. So there's a resource for you if you're having struggles with that kind of a situation, that kind of a relationship, all right? But I want to highlight more specifically verbally abusive because I think it's so sneaky. Sneaky in the sense that I think a lot of people miss how verbal abusive can easily turn into physical abusive, or how what we may not view so much as verbally abusive, but it's a very negative approach to how a man is talking to you that speaks to deeper issues and problems. So here's one aspect I want you to consider. Does he consistently insult you? So there are some men who will use insults as a way to knock down your self-esteem, all right? Because it allows them to have greater control over you. And sometimes those insults don't come off as these blatant, hardcore insults. That's why I used the word tricky earlier. They're very backhanded. They might even come with a little slight compliment, but then hit you with the insult. But it's still enough to start planting seeds of insecurity in you. Now, I feel the need to say, some men don't know better. And some men, it reminds me of, like, you ever see how when kids like each other, they fight or they start, insulting and calling each other's names. So I feel like some men haven't developed in a way to understand how this is a problem. But then there are others who are using it as a tool of manipulation. All right. So again, you may tend to overlook that as not such a big deal because it doesn't come off as blatant. But what's important is you have to ask yourself, how do those things make me feel? Because there are some people who are in relationships where partners are very sarcastic with each other and they clown each other all the time and they can laugh at it, and it genuinely does not hurt each other. They know it's jokes, they don't take it personally, and if that's their dynamic, I think there's nothing wrong with that because they're not getting negative energy from those words, from those discussions, from those jokes, whatever the case may be. But if you, for any reason, and it's not about whether it should be or you should be like that or shouldn't be like that. If for any reason those insults, those words are bothering you, you have to speak on that. You shouldn't sweep it under the rug. You shouldn't act like it's not a big deal because, again, it will lead to bigger problems in different ways. All right. But then also let's take another aspect of the verbally abusive. When we have disagreements, all right? So there are people, and this is one of the common themes, because a lot of people have grown up in dysfunctional, unhealthy households, they have normalized toxic ways of communicating. They have normalized arguing and being very disrespectful in those arguments. And so to you, if you're that individual, you may not understand how big of a problem this really is. I think there's nothing wrong with disagreement, but disrespect is unacceptable. And we have to understand that if we cannot disagree in a respectful manner, this is going to lead to bigger problems because it is very rare for people who get disrespectful when they argue to not eventually at some point cross an even bigger disrespectful line. Now, again, even if that's not physically, verbally, they'll say something that goes way below the belt, all right? And words can stick. Words can haunt people. Words can haunt a relationship for a long time, if not forever, all right? The only way to ensure, or the way to help ensure we don't cross that ultimate line is to eliminate the disrespect at the lower level, all right? We have to cultivate healthier ways of communicating. And if it's so much of a struggle for whatever reason to have a respectful conversation and disagreement, then I would argue that maybe the best way is to write letters to each other, all right? Ways that you guys can sit down and evaluate your words, evaluate your tone before expressing it. But either way, we've got to get rid of that, all right? And then the third aspect of this that I want to highlight, all right, is disrespect in front of other individuals. So don't get me wrong, disrespect in general is bad. But I want to highlight, it's a huge red flag when someone is willing to come at you in a very negative, hurtful, disrespectful way in the presence of other people. That speaks to an even more toxic environment. And to me, I'm not going to act like I'm some specialist in this specific area. But to me, People who are willing to get disrespectful in public tend to be people. Now, let me not say tend to be people. I think that's wrong. But I would not be surprised if we were to do a study and find many of those people are the ones who will take it to a physical place. Okay? Because there's no self-control. If I can't even control myself in public when company is around, then the chances that I'm going to have great control or enough control in private to not take things too far it's a very low chance. Okay? So all that to say, I understand that people have gotten accustomed to very disrespectful and toxic ways of speaking, but that doesn't make it okay. And as a woman, you should not tolerate dating a man like that. And I'll say one more thing in this with this whole thing. This person, it's not just how they speak to you, it's how they speak to other people. Because again, what did I say? It's very rare for someone to like behave very badly in this one area, but be so awesome and perfect in this other area. In most cases, if they speak poorly to other people, it's gonna at some point pour over into a relationship. So just don't say, well, they've never said anything bad to me personally, so we're good. No. If they're doing it to other people, I'm not saying cut them off and end it right there, but discuss it and see if they're willing to get better in that area in general. Because again, now, if they can learn to get better, there's a greater confidence to me that it won't pour over now into your relationship. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So there's this great quote I want to read to you before we begin. And it says, sometimes the hardest part of being a great catch is accepting not everyone's hands are strong enough to hold you.